Welcome back to the Daddy Caddy Podcast, the show where we help parents and junior golfers navigate the journey from the first tee all the way to college golf and beyond. I'm Aaron Gregory, your host, and I'm joined by my co-host, Rustin Darter. Today's episode is a continuation of our in-depth and informative interview with Coach Ryan Sirman, the assistant women's golf coach at Texas A&M University.
So what's one trait you've noticed in players who go on to succeed at the next level?
The $1 million question, right? I'd tell any kid out there, be a sponge. Learn. The best players that we've coached, that I've coached, they're curious, right? They just want to find ways to get better. And I don't think that just is a golfer. I think it goes into what makes a good coach. What makes someone successful is we're never a finished product. We're always trying to wake up and find ways to get better. And I know we hear that all the time, but I've coached a lot of kids that aren't coachable, that think they have everything figured out. And it's just, you're here for 4 years, or you want to play pro golf, and if you want to win a major on the LPGA tour one day and you're a freshman, we're talking about something 6-7 years down the road. So what I see in players that succeed at this level are they're coachable, they want to learn, they're willing to experiment and try new things. Sometimes we try stuff and it doesn't work out, and that's fine, but at least we know that, and you've gained a better understanding of what works for you, which kind of correlates into becoming a better player. So be a sponge and learn.
Nice.
I like that. That's good insight.
Yeah.
What's the most underrated skill that separates like a great college player from ones who, maybe rarely qualify for your tournaments?
I'm going to get really specific on this one. I think a very underrated skill, and I think this could even apply to a lot of junior golfers as well, is, we're at home. Our next event is in 3 weeks. We're going to be on the range. We're going to try and perfect our golf game, get it as good as possible for when we go on the plane to New Mexico. But when we get to New Mexico, we have one practice round to figure out the golf course. And I see a lot of kids fall in the trap of they get so consumed with, oh, my golf game's not in a great spot. Something feels off in my swing. And so then we're in a practice round and we're playing golf swing instead of trying to learn the golf course. How can I outsmart my opponents? Is it playing firm and fast? Putting up a good score is, you have to have an understanding and anticipate what's going to happen before it happens. If I'm hitting an 8-iron out of the rough, if it lands on the green, how far is this going to release out? If I'm chipping, if I have a bunker shot, where do I need to land this? So I think that's a very underrated skill, of having the maturity to trust your preparation when you show up on site, and on a practice round day, really just being focused on learning the golf course and learning it better than everyone else in the field. So I think at our level, that's something that we really stress to our girls is, you're prepared, you're ready. Now go do what no one else is doing, and go learn the golf course, go learn how to attack it for your style of play. And obviously that's something that we assist with, but I think that's something that kind of flies under the radar. And to add a second one, like an underrated skill, is just, we see a lot of successful kids at this level. They got every other facet of life, not figured out, but it's organized, of time management is a huge one. And it can even be things, and I'm guilty of this, of I'm a freshman, I need to do laundry. Like, can how of being independent, like, that's a huge one, and we're looking for that on the recruiting trail of, when you get out of the car, like, are are you doing your push cart, or are your parents? And just trying to find ways, because college is stressful enough, especially as a freshman. We got workouts tomorrow at 7 a.m., then you got class, and then we have practice, and then you got to study somewhere in there and have a social life and make friends. And so every stressor that your kids can eliminate before they get to college is going to be helpful. So really just being elite and being good at stuff that has nothing to do with golf. Do you have a go-to meal that you just know how to make that takes 10 minutes? Can you do your laundry? Just all the just life life essentials, I
Can
think
you do
is
your laundry? I like that one. That's put that in an email. Hey, coach, I can do my own laundry. One point this summer, we were paired with a kid who was in like high D1 school. I don't remember what it was, and I kind of watched how he like prepared and did his practice rounds. And I was telling the other kids, you need to watch this kid how he goes about it, because he's going to be on the top of the leaderboard come day two. And I think he lost in a playoff or something like that. Just the way he prepared and his course management strategy and skills and what he did during the practice round, I was very impressed with. And take notes sometimes when you play with other people. Sometimes you can learn something.
Absolutely, Rustin. I
That's
think
that's the being a sponge.
be a sponge,
Yeah.
learn. It's okay to learn from other people, like,
Yeah.
my mom used to always tell me growing up, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So learn, be a sponge, and like to your point with the practice round stuff, from a coach mentality, like I'm going to give you the tools to help you learn how to navigate that, but we just need to be consistent with whatever you do. So if you have speed drills that you do here at home on a daily basis, like we need to be doing that on the road, before a practice round, after. Because I think being consistent also just provides security and safety, when we're in high pressure situations of, well, this is just what I do, so whether it's a pre-shot routine or a warm up, just trying to do the same thing, whether, I'm at home or whether I'm at an event, is going to help you succeed.
And creatures of habit sometimes. I know I'm
Man,
guilty of it in my day-to-day life. And so, yeah, you see a lot from athletes. They get psychotically creatures of habits where they need to do the same thing and hit the same number of balls, whatever the case may be, right? So, yeah.
so moving on into like the parent and family role in
Yes.
in this whole journey. What's the best way you think parents can support their junior golfer without adding too much pressure?
Phenomenal question. I would tell you, your kids, whether they play good or they play bad, they want to succeed. And so I think the best thing that parents can do is just love your kid, whether it's a good round or a bad, but just throw results out. And we talk to this all the time with our kids of be process oriented and keep it simple of we're going to wake up every single day. As long as you're putting in the work, trying to be the best version of yourself that you can be, then we're going to live with the results. We don't lose, we learn. And unfortunately in this
Love
sport,
that.
we lose more than we win. So when we go out and lose, there's an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to grow. So, if kids and if parents can instill that mindset, think about where your kid's going to be 3, 4, 5 years down the road with that, instead of, you know, being mad at your kid that they didn't perform in a
Right.
tournament when they're 12 years old. And kids want to play good too. They put in the work and they're trying, but man, if parents can just instill that mindset of find joy in the journey, if you have a bad day, let's learn from it. What can we do tomorrow that we didn't do well today to try and have a better day? And just keep stacking days. That's all we talk to our kids about, and I think it's a pretty good recipe for success.
I agree. Great insight.
Yes, sir.
What's something that you see that parents kind of do wrong, or even kids during the recruiting process, that may hurt their chances of going into a school or not, or just that you wish they kind of knew better?
I'll stay on the parents on this one, and every recruiting visit that we have, like we tell the parents that we're recruiting you just as much as we're recruiting the kid. And what I mean by that is, when little Susie is out on the golf course, how are you acting? When Susie hits a bad shot, are you verbal? Are you just, whatever? Or are you calm, cool, collected? Because like typically the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. But then B, if Susie ends up playing for my school and Susie doesn't make the lineup, like, are you going to be a supportive parent or are you going to be a headache? And no coach wants that. So I think a lot of times too, parents get too involved in the recruiting process, because we're not spending time with the parents, we're spending time with the kids. And so I think that's what I would tell parents, and I think that's what they get wrong a lot of the time, is they just want it so bad for their kids that they're too much. And it kind of goes back to that mindset of we don't lose, we learn, and instilling that. And I think, parents can have that same mentality of, how can I best serve my kids and how can I be better at that?
Yeah, I love that.
I love that quote. Well,
Yeah,
that one's getting printed
yeah.
out tomorrow.
So, how do you prefer parents communicate with you during recruitment?
To be honest, don't. I want to get to know the kid.
Wow.
I want the kid to take ownership. And when we're on when a kid is on a recruiting visit, I think that's where we spend a lot of time to get to know the parents. You know, we can also use contacts once kids get to a certain age, and so
Right.
we'll typically use that as coaches, or do an at-home visit from time to time. But again, I think it goes back to, I think parents do too much in the recruiting process. And I'm not a parent, but I can see where, you as parents, you pour your heart and soul into it, and you want them to chase a dream. You help them out financially just to be able to do this. And so, you want it every bit as bad as they do. But, when it comes to the recruiting process itself, I want to get the kid. I want to get to know the kid. And it's kind of a turn off when parents are just, on visits, asking all the questions, doing everything.
Right.
It goes back to, we want independent kids. We want kids to take ownership. And I know that can be hard at times, I would imagine, for a parent, but I think the less is more is a good is a good tool for parents.
So do you think the kids approaching you through email, what's the best, do you think, the player?
I also understand kids, especially at that age during the recruiting process, might not be great from like an email standpoint. So I
Right.
think that's what parents I think that's where parents could really help out is,
Okay.
sending emails or helping stay on your kids about sending
Right.
emails. And I don't know if it pertains to it, not the recruitment question of what parents can do. Well, my biggest thing that I don't like with kids is they have such a narrow focus on like one school. Like I have to go here. And being on this side, there's so many great schools out there. There's so many good coaches that I wish kids had the mentality of just casting a wider net. Like you don't know what you don't know. Like send emails to anyone and everyone. You never know what you're gonna like. So it's amazing of how many stories I hear of kids of, well, I want to play at Texas A&M. Like that's great, but not many people get to do that. And even if you want to play here, it might not be a great fit. Like we all have, as coaches, we all have different belief systems and what we think runs an elite program, and it might not align with you. And so I just really encourage parents to really challenge your kids to cast a wide net. It's also okay to get away from home. And you don't have to go to a school that's 15 minutes down the road.
I get it. I
So
get it.
and again, that could be the best for the kid, but I think we as coaches, we see a lot of that of kids just get fixated on one or two schools when there's a big world out there. There's a lot of great opportunities, whether it's D1, D2, JUCO, like, it's all about finding a spot where you're going to play, be able to make memories, have experiences, and really just attacking it that way.
I think the key word that you said there is sometimes it's being able to play. Like realistically, you might have a kid on the process who I would call that tweener kid. Maybe they're not quite good enough to potentially get in your starting lineup, but they're good enough to be on your, I don't want to call it development cycle, but like they need some development work before they could potentially qualify for your tournaments. But yet they might be good enough to be one of those top five on a small, D1 or even a powerhouse D2, right? So I've always
Uh-huh.
personally believed in any sport, you don't get better by sitting on the bench. You kind of need to kind of play, right? So I think part of that casting a big net is finding out where the best resource for you as a player, speaking from a kid's point of view, of course, here is where can I play? Maybe even immediately. So, because you can get better. And then let's say you did go to a D2, it's obviously with the transfer portal, that opens up a whole new can of worms, right? That we won't get into here. But, like things like that. I mean, do you think that's important for kids to be able to kind of come in immediately and kind of try to play? Or do you like the idea of sometimes them even sitting and learning and waiting?
I would encourage kids. I think you need to go somewhere where you can compete for a spot. You might not play, but you need to at least have a chance and be in the game. From my experience, when you see kids that are at a place where they just know they're not good enough to travel, just the love of the game kind of just gets sucked out and they just lose their motivation to get better. And to your point, the best teacher is experience. And so going somewhere where you can play, where you can learn, and that's where memories are made too in college golf is when you're on the road, traveling with your buddies, with your teammates. That's the fun stuff. and you work so hard, to have this experience, like you need to be somewhere where you can play. And, you know, where you go, like what's meant to be is meant to be. And, just kids just need to keep finding joy in the journey. And to your point, if a kid's a late bloomer, there is the transfer portal. That is a reality. So, it's okay to not start up here from the get-go. Everyone is on their own path and on their own journey, and it looks different for everyone.
I was a great quote or a great thing to think about today. So Taylor Gooch in the last 5 years, even though he's on the live tours, won $90 million. Okay. And he did not win one college event. So you think about, the late bloomers, and that's a very valid point from that.
And
So
not to cut you off there,
Yeah.
but kind of similar to that Taylor Gooch is one of my former teammates, Abraham Answer. Also
yeah.
on Liv.
Yeah.
He started off at JUCO.
Permian, right? Yeah.
And so, correct. Like if you don't have to start at the top, but if you just attack each and every day, trying to be a better version of yourself, learn, grow, you're gonna start beating people. Just keep outworking them, and what's meant to be is meant to be, and you never know what opportunities are gonna arise.
Abe Answer, the distinguished alumni of UTPB.
Not many people know that, I would imagine.
That's right. That's going to be a trivia question one day on I'm sure. So
Met
what?
the, go ahead, Aaron.
No, go ahead, Russ.
Something I want to ask earlier. I think we've kind of lost this question, but I think it's important in terms of tournament schedules for junior kids. What type of events do you want to see kids in? I mean, obviously AJ is AJ, USGA is USGA. I mean, I know you got some of the bigger ones, the Western and so forth, right? Those are obviously going to recruit, get a lot of college coaches attending those. But outside of kind of those big kind of huge events, what do you look for in terms of a tournament schedule for kids that you're recruiting at your level?
I've had kids that all they do is play AJGA tournaments. I know that's the crown jewel, right? I've also had very good kids that have never played in an AJGA event. It's our job as coaches to go find good players, regardless of where they play. I think it's easy as a coach to fall into the trap of just going to AJGA events. Like that's just kind of not a lazy approach, but it's just real easy to just do that. Oh, I know kids are going to be good. However, from a parent standpoint, I think it's important to also play events where you can go win, because there's an art to learning how to win. I see a lot of kids that get to college, all they've done has been top 10 machines on the AJGA, which is great. But, knowing you don't have a chance to win, and when you do have a chance to win, it feels different, when your head hits the pillow the night before a final round. And so we really value kids that know how to go get it done on a final round, of knowing how to deal with those emotions and the pressure and the adversity of that. So I would encourage parents, it's okay to play in lesser events and have your kids learn how to win. Once they kind of learn how to win, then you can level up. Then it's completely fine. Then go try and win on a higher stage and just keep going that way. And regardless of what level a kid's at, like winning's fun. And I I think everyone chases AJGA, and I get it. and a lot of coaches pay attention to it. But I think there's a lot of valuable lessons missed for a lot of kids of learn how to win, learn how to go finish a top five, finish top 10, whatever your stage at, instead of going and playing against the best of the best and really struggling.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different stories on that kind of question. So I was really curious on how much weight, is put behind just playing AJs as you described. They're playing kind of a mixed pie, as I like to say, where you're playing some things where you expect to be top two, you know, or, some things you're going to literally just gain experience and get your tail kicked sometimes so you can learn, as you say, right? So, you know,
Yeah, I think there needs to be a healthy balance of the two.
it's good insight.
Yeah. So talking about the player growth and college transition, um, what do you wish junior golfers understood better about the jump from high school juniors to college golf?
I'm gonna hit on on the same point I did to an earlier question, I believe, is a lot of being good at this level has nothing to do with golf. Just you get thrown into a new environment, you're away from mom and dad, just having good life skills, being independent, being organized. You see a lot of those kids be really successful, especially early. I think there comes a point where, just about everyone kind of crosses that line to where they are comfortable in the environment that is college. But until you get there, I think it's really hard to be successful. And so I think for me, that's what I wish, junior golfers understood better was it's to be successful, it's not necessarily all about golf. It can even be how do I take care of my body, whether it's rehab, recovery, flexibility, the weight room. We're always nutrition, is a big one. So there's a lot of other avenues that successful players do. And I think the earlier that you can learn that as a junior golfer, or even, once you get to the college level, the more successful you're going to be.
Good, good insight. I mean, 100%. That always scares us as parents, transitioning. Um, but hopefully we'll be there and can teach them life skills that will help them, evolve correctly in the college, um, in the college atmosphere, because it is an atmosphere and you need to be able to assimilate to it and
Yes, sir.
yeah. So
What advice could you give to a junior golfer who kind of dreams of playing college golf, but might be classified as that kind of late bloomer or feels behind?
Again, I think it goes back to don't be afraid to cast a wide net, right? Like it's you need to be somewhere where you're going to have a great experience, and that typically entails competing and playing. And as far as like advice on a day-to-day in life is, again, I know I've said it a lot, but you just need to control the controllables, which is your attitude, your energy, your effort. And if you do that, you know, you can reach any level that you want. It might not be necessarily on the timeline that you want, and that's okay, because I think the end goal is us just always chasing a better version of ourselves, and we just have to trust the process that we're going to end up where we're going to end up and be okay with that.
so what role would mental toughness play in a golfer's success at the
Ooh.
college?
So I once heard that a physical motion at a golf ball takes roughly 1 second, just for easier math, whether it's a full swing, a chip, or a putt. So if I go out and shoot 72, that's 72 seconds of me making a physical motion at a golf ball. All right, that's a minute and 12 seconds. How long does a tournament round take? At the college level, 5 hours. So that's 4 hours and 58 minutes of you controlling you and dealing with your thoughts, dealing with adversity, trying to stay where your feet are and not thinking of something that happened 2 holes ago or this next hole's coming up and I don't like that hole. So mental toughness, it's everything. And I think the mentality of it is, we spend a lot of time trying to teach our girls that side of it, because we'll sit here on the range, practice, kids are practicing, 5-6 hours a day just for those 72 seconds of making a physical motion at a golf ball. When we talk about being successful, again, there's a whole lot more that goes into that. So just learning more about yourself, how you operate, how can you stay in that present moment, that's all. To me, I'm just going to group all of that into the mental game side of things. So as parents, the earlier that you can tell your kids that and teach them, the more successful they're going to be, because that ultimately is the driver to let everything you do on the range and your physical ability to let it go and actually use your talent.
Man, great nuggets. It was great.
For real.
Great 72 seconds. 72 seconds. At minute 12, I could just sit there and think about nothing for a minute and 12 seconds pretty easily. Tell you that.
It's crazy.
But yeah.
How do you deal with like confidence at the college level, especially when they get in a funk and maybe they're fighting their swing or it happens. We all kind of go through that as golfers where we don't know, we don't trust where the ball is going so much and stuff like that, especially at that level when you're trying to compete, win national championships with kids. What do you do to kind of help instill confidence back in these young ladies?
I think we would all be lying if we said we've never experienced that, right? And it's a tough one as golf, because you do lose more than you win. I also think our brain is just Velcro for the bad, right? So we always hear, even if a kid plays good, a kid can go shoot 70 and then you walk off the 18th green and someone, how'd it go today? I shot 70, but, I had a 3-putt or I did this. So our default is always on something negative. And so we're just setting ourselves up to fail in a sense. And it's hard because that's just kind of the way we're wired as humans. So, what we really try and stress is, you have to rewire your thinking and you have to go search for little wins, and you can find them of, did I have a productive day of practice? Did I get better at this? And I think that's something we really focus on as a staff, in the way we try and develop our kids is we're always trying to put a number to something to where we can show them that over time they're growing. It's no different than like stock market, right? If we can go like this, and sometimes when I'm in a slump, it might go like this, but then we're going to keep going that way. And so, in our practice of having data, having measurable things that when they do it well can help give them confidence. But I think a lot of it just boils down to you have to be intentional about rewiring the way you think, and you have to be looking for little wins, whether it's a certain situation of where, last event I didn't handle this the right way. The next event I went out and had a different thought process. Like, that's a little win, even though if you didn't have a good day on the golf course. Something I tell my kids all the time, like, if we could control results, you would birdie every single hole, you would win every single golf tournament, but we can't control results. So all you can control is attitude, energy, effort, the preparation, and you have to be okay with that. And you have to have faith that if I keep preparing at a high level, that it's going to pay off in time. And so I think it's a combination of that and just getting out of that mindset, of that Velcro mindset for the bad of, we don't need to verbalize what happened here. I 3-putted here, and just go find little wins. And I think, that's something I've just applied to myself in life as well. I think it goes beyond the golf course of just look for the good. What am I accomplishing? And you'd be surprised that, when you start doing that, you're not really thinking about I'm in a slump, and it's just easier to maintain that confidence.
And one of the great things that someone ever told me when I was in college was only worry about the things you can't control. And so I always thought that, and I've said that to my kid, my wife, everybody for 20 years now. Because there was a guy that I knew, he told me that when I was kind of fighting something when I was in college. And it's the best advice I've ever gotten in my life. And I still live that way in my sense is I don't overly stress out about things and stuff like that because I try to, and I think you can apply that to golf where you can only worry about what you can control. And sometimes that's just the next shot.
Uh, golf's golf. We're always chasing perfection, right? And we're never going to attain it. That's what keeps us motivated and as golfers, I think, is trying to hit that perfect shot every time. And I think it was Walter Sarazen that said that or Gene Sarazen, excuse me, uh, that said that he only hits maybe 2 to 3 perfect shots a round. Everything else, he's just hoping it's a close miss. So that's really interesting how you handle the slumps and when players are struggling, because I think that does bring makes a team stronger. It makes them more impenetrable to the bad times, and they can come out of those much quicker. So tell us about what a typical practice looks like for your team.
For us, typical practice day is, well, I guess I'll start off saying we're firm believers. Like, golf is just unique, right? So, we have a bunch of girls with different skill sets. So for one player, so for our entire team to work on the same exact thing, I don't think we're gonna help our kids grow individually and get the most out of their game. So we do a lot of individualized work. We will typically start off, maybe the first hour, 45 minutes of practice, we'll have something set up, typically to test their mentality, or what I was talking about, something measurable, whether it's some kind of line test or a proximity game, something that we can do consistently over time to show that you might feel like you're in a slump, but you're still going this way. You're still getting better. Look where you were last year. Look where you were 6 months ago. So that's kind of how we'll start practice off for about that first hour. And then after that, we kind of turn them loose to let them work on what they want to work on. And us as coaches, we make it a priority to do check-ins with everyone each and every day. How can we serve you today? where do we need to get better? Some kids love, to stand on the range. They're just range rats. I was one of those. We have some kids that love to be on the golf course and get better out there. So our job as coaches is we want to create an environment where every single one of our players feels like they're getting better, and that looks different for each and every one of them. So, we have a lot of individualized time, and us coaches just kind of do a lot of one-on-one work with each kid. But I would say that the majority of our like structured design practices is everything is 130 yards in. Like we never hit anything longer than that in an organized practice. We're believers that, proof is in the pudding, that elite players are good at scoring. And so that's something that we really focus on.
Yeah, I've taken that trend recently with my kid, is just focusing on, like the better term, just kind of wedges it in, and it's been a huge difference. Especially if you get some of your kids, who I know are some kids on your team, who hit it good ways out there. That the distances y'all play, it's all about wedge game for a lot of elite players, stuff like that. So
Yes,
that's
sir.
good insight.
And we're lucky enough to have a nice short game course, 4 holes, and so the biggest jump that my daughter made in her scoring was spending dedicating time in one summer out on that course, and that seemed to make the biggest difference. So I can see how you would focus on that in your team atmosphere. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yes, sir.
I think we're coming down the home stretch.
Yeah.
Down the home stretch.
What unique opportunities is this for female golfers compared to like other sports, would you say?
I would tell you, I think the majority of girls are chasing a dream to play pro golf, and not many girls get that opportunity. And what golf provides, especially at the college level, I mean, especially in the business world, right? Business and golf just go hand in hand. And with at the college level, like just the interactions that female golfers get to have with donors, with people that could set them up for success in the business world, whether it's just supporters of the university or when we travel, as a team. A lot of events will have a college am where people come, they pay just to play with the girls. And I remember being in college, if I played in a college am, you would kind of roll your eyes and say, why me? However, that is such a great opportunity that these kids have to just, network and get to meet these people that could really set them up for success in life. I don't think a lot of other sports have that opportunity to be able to network in that way. So I think that's an important piece that I would encourage, junior golfers to be aware of. And it's honestly something that I need to keep reiterating to my girls in college as well, is, you're just surrounded by a lot of important people that could help you in a lot of different ways, and take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's
You
who
know,
you know.
yeah, and I mean, golf. I preach to anyone that is getting into golf themselves or has children getting into golf. The connections and relationships you're going to build from golf will be the most impactful throughout your entire life, bar none. I mean, just it's going to be amazing, the results when you look back in life and your relationships that you have, developed from golf. Um, we love the sport. Russ and I love the sport, and that's why we just want to impart knowledge on daddy caddies and mama caddies, and out there. So my next question was going to be about Title IX, but I think it's more about what teams look like right now, because the number of scholarships, the number of players you can have on a team has changed. And so we can talk about Title IX and the growth of women's sports and impacted in your recruiting and your program. But I think more of what's impacting your program right now seems to be a regulatory thing. And so if you can talk to that, I don't know if you can talk to that, if you can or not, but just, what that, and some of it might be in flux. You still might not know, what's going to happen. So
Yeah, to be honest with you, a lot of it is still in flux, and
Okay.
I wish I could share more with
Yeah.
you and your listeners on that. What I would say, like in this Title IX question that you said, how does it impact recruiting in your program? I think something at this level is a lot of kids take for granted the resources and the facilities that college golf provides. It's funny we have a couple players that are out on, Epson and LPGA, and they're wanting to still come back and use our facilities, whether it's the weight room, practice. They even want to try and pay our sports psychologist to continue to work with them, where, I think a lot of that goes underutilized when you're in that college space. And then when you're out on your own and having to pay for everything and figure it out, you realized kind of how good you had it. So I think my message to junior golfers would be, when you get to college, you have all these resources that are going to be free. Use them. Don't be shy. It's going to make you a better player, a better person, whether it's, one-on-one sessions with sports psychologists, one-on-one sessions with a strength coach, getting treatment for recovery, tutors, academic advisors. Just, you have everything in the world at your fingertips to set you up for success. And so just use them.
That's really interesting. And do your players see some of those girls coming back in the summertime and off season and working and really kind of energizes them probably as well, I would think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we tell all of our kids they're always welcome here, right? This is
That's
this is
awesome.
always going to be home. And
That's awesome.
we tell kids on recruiting trips, this isn't a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision. We want you to always feel like this is a place you can come back to, bring your family. And so it is nice to have our former players back, and they're a great resource as well, because they've been in our players' shoes, and they know what it's like even more than we do. And sometimes we can kind of become the parents of, stuff goes in one ear and out the other. And
Yep.
so, an established former player that's successful, if it comes from them, it might stick a little more than just the old college coach.
Yeah, different voice. They can hear it better.
Different voice. Yes, sir.
100%. I think Rustin and I pay a lot of money to somebody to tell our kids exactly what we'd tell them on their swings.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
That's
my
another
daughter
story.
was lucky enough to work with one of my daughter's coaches. One of her lessons, Haley was there right in front of us, so she spent some time with my kiddo and was talking to her before. I think she was still at A&M at the time, but obviously now she has a win or so on the Epson tour and stuff like that. So, and her U.S. Open performance was pretty impressive. So it's kind of cool to see
Yes, it
what you
was.
guys have done with those young ladies and develop them not only as good golfers but good people as well.
Well, thank you. And, I it's not us. I think it goes back to, that's an important part of the recruiting process, is finding like-minded people. We want good golfers, but we also just want good human beings that just want to do life with each other. And it's been a fun ride, and it's just fun, the energy that a team that is like-minded and wants to achieve the same thing, just the energy that comes from that.
What advice did you give young competitive female junior golfers about trying to stand out in some of these competitive fields that they play in?
There's a quote by George Washington Carver that said, "Do common things in an uncommon way, and you'll command the attention of the world." So, if I'm a junior golfer, it's all about trying to find ways to stand out. And even I do this on my side of the fence in recruiting. Just the simple, mundane things. How can I do that in a way that no one else is doing? So, little things of, if a coach comes out to watch you, fire them an email, say thank you. Or if they happen to be standing right there, just go shake their hand and say, "Thanks so much for being out here today. I really appreciate it." Or write a handwritten note. "Hey coach, thanks for coming out." So that would be my advice, of just the little day-to-day things. How can I do that in a way that no one else is doing? It really catches the eye of coaches.
I like that. Yeah, sometimes I know maybe there's a misconception of what kids can and can't do with college coaches. And I know I've heard from not just my kid, but other kids about you can't talk to them at all. You can't talk to them at all. I was like, it's okay to say thank you. You can always have manners.
Right.
Like
You
you're
can
not going to
always
get in
keep your
trouble.
nerves, as long as, yeah, it's there's no conversation. It's fine to say, "Thank you guys for coming out today." Yeah.
So we are on that final stretch right here. So we call this a rapid fire fun wrap up.
All right. I'm
So
ready.
so tell us, what's the most memorable recruit you've ever coached and why?
Ooh. I hate to do this to you guys, but I'm gonna keep it pretty PC. I love all my players. Well, I love them all equally. No, no, I've had players that have been super easy. I've had my share of challenging players, but at the end of the day, I think each and every one of them have made me a better coach. They've each kind of given me different experiences, made me think about the way I operate to serve kids differently. So I'm not the coach that I am today with these current kids that I have on my roster without them. So I love them all.
Great answer. Great answer. Repping gig 'em well. That one.
Hook 'em, gig 'em, whatever it is, right?
No. He
Oh, I'm looking at it.
doesn't. He will never have that as vocabulary. You get it out of there, Rustin.
I have to throw it out there. My
All
wife's
right.
probably listening. What's one piece of
you
advice
go.
you'd give to junior golfers? Just one.
I said it earlier and I'm going to say it again. We don't lose, we learn. Just
Okay.
learn through the good, learn through the bad. We're always just chasing a better version of ourselves, and we're just going to see where that takes us. Period.
I love it.
Control what you can control, similar to what you said earlier.
All right. So, along with that, what's the one myth about college golf you wish you could bust?
Man, there's a lot of them, but I think the one
Your
that
top 5. about-
the one that I would bust is, I hear people all the time that say, "Man, like, I wish I had a daughter, because anyone can get a scholarship out there." And it's like,
All
if
right.
you only knew the level of how good these kids really are, like, it takes time and energy and effort. And maybe that was the case 20 years ago, but you know golf junior golf has evolved, and That's just not true anymore. So, you know, if you're a parent and if you have that mindset, it's probably not gonna get your kids very far. So, you know, that's a myth I would like to bust.
I've heard that one
Nice,
a
love it.
few times in my life, and I always say, maybe 20 years ago that was true, or D3 maybe, but
Yeah.
not even that. But
Yeah, prior to COVID for sure. I think golf during COVID, junior golf has grown 30%. So you see just that increase of players playing, and a lot of the girls you're recruiting now, I know probably started prior to COVID, but still just the level of competition is, you know, it's made those older girls better, with the younger girls pushing them hard. And Ryan, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on with us and just, you know, sharing your knowledge. And I really, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate your comment about there's a lot of cast a wide net. There's a lot of good coaches out there, because you could have came on here and just talked about yourself and talked about your program, but there is opportunities out there. You know, you only recruit 1 to 2 girls a year mainly, right? I know this year was a special year for you, but um, you know, there's a lot more than 1 or 2 girls that are looking for scholarships. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
cast that wide net. I appreciate that. I appreciate your honesty and candor and transparency on a lot of those questions. So, again, I can't tell you how much we wish you success this year and in coming years. And we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Well, I'd love to come on anytime you guys will have me, and I love what you're doing, because there's a lot of parents out there that want to help, want to serve their kids. They just don't know how. So, you know, I think this is a great avenue for them to try and learn how to help their kids.
that was Coach Ryan Sirman again. Incredible advice for junior golfers and their parents. I hope you took away some practical tips on how to support your player, what coaches are really looking for, and how to approach the college golf journey with confidence.
If you enjoyed this episode, there will be more of our conversation with Coach Sirman in the upcoming episode. And make sure to subscribe to the Daddy Caddy podcast so you never miss a conversation. And if you know another golf parent like us who could use this insight, share this episode with them. It might be exactly what they need right now.
Thanks as always for tuning in. I'm Rustin Darner, along with my co-host Aaron Gregory, and this is the Daddy Caddy podcast, where we help parents, players navigate the world of junior golf. Until next time, play well, have fun, and we'll see you in the next episode.